When you record a macro, every action that you perform is being written in code. It's actually been written in a language called VBA, or Visual Basic for Applications. To see the code that goes with the macro, what I would do is on the Developers tab, in the Code group, I'd click the Macros button. Here I can see my macro format currency, and if I click the Edit button, I can check out the code that goes with this macro. This particular screen is known as the Visual Basic Editor, or VBE, and if you look at your taskbar at the bottom, you can switch back to Excel and back to the Visual Basic Editor, so it's sort of like its own application that you've opened. Now the Visual Basic Editor can vary in how it appears. For example, I have three parts. I have a code window here on the right, I have a properties window here in the bottom left, and I have a project explorer in the top left. But sometimes they don't all come up. For example, I could close the properties window just by hitting this little X, and I could close the project explorer by hitting this little X, and now I'm just left with a code window. If you need to bring up or send away any one of these three parts, choose View in the menu. If I go to View in the menu, I can bring back the Project Explorer. I can also use the shortcut key Control R, so I'm going to bring back the Project Explorer. If I go back to View, I can also bring up the Properties window, and the shortcut key is F4, so I'll bring up the Properties window. So you can bring them up and send them away as you need to. Now let's have a look at the code. The code here is your actual macro. Now a macro always starts with sub and always ends with end sub, and that is because a macro is a sub-procedure or a subroutine. Now following the word sub is always the name of the macro, and you're not allowed spaces in the name of the macro, otherwise it gets too confusing for Excel. So this is a sub-procedure called format currency, and it's always followed by an open and close bracket. Now what you also see here are 4 single apostrophes, and they're green. These are comments, and you can add as many comments as you like to document what the macro does, how the macro works, and any limitations, and even who it was designed by and when. For example, we assigned a shortcut key to this macro after we recorded it. So now I need to document that there is actually a shortcut key combination that runs this macro. So I might just take out this apostrophe under the sub, just backspace, and then I might click at the end of this apostrophe, put a space, and I'll just mention that there is a shortcut key combination, and the shortcut key combination is Control-Shift-C to run the macro. Oops. You can type whatever you want. Now when I hit the down arrow, you'll notice it goes green. And so anything that starts with an apostrophe is purely a comment and it's not actually executed. And you can put as many comments as you like. For example, I might take out this apostrophe because it's not needed, just backspace. And I might put a comment at the end of this line. You can't put a comment at the beginning of the line because that will nullify that command. But you can put a comment at the end of the command. For example, the command, or what this macro actually does, is it applies a number format to whatever is selected. And that number format is a leading dollar, a comma every thousandth, and no decimal places. So at the end of this command, I might press Tab, and I'll just add a comment, so I have to put a single quote or an apostrophe, and I'll just say that this applies currency format and 0 decimal places. Now as soon as I hit the down arrow or enter, you'll notice that that goes green because of the apostrophe at the beginning. So you can add as many comments as you like. You can also change your code. Why re-record the whole macro when you want to make a little change? For example, I might decide that I actually do want to see 1 decimal place. So I'm going to alter this code by clicking here just after the 0 and putting a full stop and another 0. Which is my way of saying I'd like to have 1 decimal place. Now let's go and test this. I'm just going to jump back to Excel, and I'm just going to highlight a range of cells, so it can be any range of cells, and I'll just highlight this range here, and I'll press the key combination Control-Shift-C to see if it actually has been altered. And when I press Control-Shift-C, it's giving me currency with 1 decimal place. Let's say I want 2 decimal places. I'll jump back to the Visual Basic Editor, I'll alter my code by putting another 0 on the end, and this is my way of saying I want 2 decimal places. I'll go back to Excel, I'll select the same range or a different range, it really doesn't matter, and I'll press Ctrl-Shift-C. And now I have 2 decimal places. If I go back to my Visual Basic editor and take those 2 zeros off, plus the full stop, I've changed my code back to the original, which is 0 decimal places. I'll go back to Excel and I'll press Ctrl-Shift-C to see if altering my code has worked. So you can easily jump between Excel and the Visual Basic editor and make changes to your code and then test your code.